going to get this going on the team page. Hang on just a second. Okay, so I think we are good. Okay, so thank you guys for being here tonight. I'm really excited that you all made it. And hold on, I think this is going to make me close the Facebook page or it's going to have an echo. Let me do it really fast. Hang on, I think it's live. You never know. Okay, I think we're good. But I'm glad you guys made it tonight. So I'm really excited for our guest. So Julia Cartee, and I did have to ask her, we were having a debate on how to pronounce your last name. So I did have to ask her, and that's how you pronounce it. But she is a diamond in this company. And for those of you that may not know, that's the top rank. But she started at the same place as all of us. So she was brand new to the company. These products, probably had no idea what she was doing and a million questions like we all do. But she decided to just take a chance on this, dig in, learn, grow, just pursue it no matter what. And she succeeded. And I want you guys to get to hear her story and why she decided to do the business side of this and what's come because of that. Because we're all on this call because we love the products, but we also see that the business side could be a huge blessing to our family and to our friends. And I love just hearing from others, the story, their story of them doing it, because it's just a reminder that it's possible if we're willing to just keep going. So Julia, I'm really excited that you're here. So you can take it away from, just tell them a little bit more about you.
Thank you. Yes, like she said, I am Julia Cartee. I am a diamond ambassador. I live in East Tennessee. However, we used to call ourselves self-proclaimed gypsies, but we really haven't moved that often in the past several years. But we did move to East Tennessee about 2 years ago, and that's kind of part of my Plexus story. But my Plexus story started in 2014. I've been part of Plexus for 8.5 years now. And my family, I was a mom of four little doorsteps. I was thinking about today, they were really 7, 6, 4, and 2 when I started Plexus. But when we moved to Texas, my best friend, I met a girl in Sunday school, Andrea Mitchell. Y'all might know her. She's also a diamond ambassador. She was in Sunday school with me, and she started sharing Plexus in her news feed. And I honestly had never heard the word Plexus, and I really wanted nothing to do with it. My husband had been in the ministry for about 9 years. He was a youth pastor. We had moved to Dallas for him to finish seminary. And we made a decision early in on marriage that I would never sell anything. I had been invited to the parties. We're Southern. I'm from Alabama, Roll Tide. We love the clothes. We love all the things, but I just didn't really see how ministry and selling something could go hand in hand. That awkwardly, without being in my budget, would buy stuff from friends and then have to go home and figure out how to pay for it. And I didn't want to be that person. So maybe some of you can relate to that. You just didn't want to be the person that people kind of walked away from or tried to steer away from in conversation. So Andrea started sharing it, didn't really know what it was. Before long, every woman that I knew in the DFW area started sharing Plexus. Now, I am taking that most of y'all are here for you have some interest in the business. Well, I was at a church, and at that time, it was Ellen Ford, who is now a diamond ambassador, Amber Vulbada, who is now a diamond ambassador, Angie Zuma, who's now a diamond ambassador. And I say that because I know some of our lies creep into our brain that says, oh, everybody around me sells Plexus. There's too many people successful. There's not room for me to be successful. I could have easily bought into that lie because they all joined before I did. But what they did is they annoyed me. They all were posting about Plexus. They were talking about it at church. And I found that little unfollow button. And I had a rule that if you sold something in my newsfeed, I unfollowed you. I didn't defriend you. I just unfollowed you. And it wasn't just Plexus. It was any company. So if any of your friends or family have unfollowed you on social media and you know it, don't get your feelings hurt too much, because that is part of what I want to share with you tonight. I want to encourage you to love them where they're at, because they might be the next diamond on your team. Love them where they're at. I even we had a Tuesday morning Bible study, and I told many of those women, if you mention Plexus to me one more time, I'm not coming back to Bible study. Now, I don't sell at church. That's just not my style. That's not, and I'll say most of them didn't either. They just were excited and were chatty about it. But if someone had said, how many of you have had somebody say, do not mention Plexus to me again? I'm not interested. Okay. Let me tell you, I'm here to tell you tonight, love them where they're at, because they might be the next diamond on your team. And beyond that, you might have an answer to their prayers that you don't even know they're praying. So fast forward a few months. Andrea saw my two babies at the time. They were 2 and 4 at the time, had severe skin issues. Private call. I'm just going to say they had eczema. Okay. They had eczema. And I was trying everything, taking them to dermatologist, allergist, nothing was helping. So she slipped a bottle of ProBio 5 in my diaper bag. Guys, I had never heard of a probiotic. So if you're here and you're like, I'm really not into health, I'm really not into wellness, but I've fallen in love with these products, I relate to you. I had never heard of a probiotic. I didn't understand it. How could a pill help my kids? I opened it up, gave it to them a couple times. Everybody always asks. I opened up and put it in their milk and their applesauce. Said it didn't work. Again, how many of you have had friends or family tell you our products don't work? Love them where they're at. Because guess what? They might be the next diamond on your team. You might still, because I told them, I was like, guys, this just doesn't work for us. Like, good for y'all, not for us. A little bit passed. It was actually 8 months. It seemed like a really long time. But I watched my friends in Dallas get healthy, succeed in the business. I think Andrea was hit Sapphire, which is right above the top rank. And my husband lost his job. He was working like 70, 75 hours a week. We never saw him so he could pay for seminary. We were not happy in the sense of we were used to him being home. And he lost his job, hit rock bottom. We used up all our savings, everything for medical bills just to make ends meet. And so I went to breakfast with Andrea and I just asked her, I said, how much money are you making? And she told me, and I about fell off my chair. Because in my mind, she was making, and if you've seen the income disclosures, Jules make a lot of money. I was like, if you can make that, I can make $1,000 a month. And I had did the math in my brain. We were moving back to Alabama, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooling my 4 kids, and I thought, I can make that a little bit. So, of course, I had to know that the products work. So I started giving those products to my kids again. I always say my kids were my guinea pigs. And sure enough, after consistent use and several weeks, their skin started clearing up. So I knew the products worked. I knew the business could maybe work a little bit for me. I really didn't see a big vision for it. Again, I just kind of want to pay for groceries. And so I jumped in with 2 feet. Now, I'm not here to tell y'all tonight that, I just started sharing about it and it just happened. I jumped in with 2 feet. I was ready to go. Again, I had no idea what that really meant. Again, I didn't really know what a probiotic was. Still, 8.5 years later, couldn't tell you all the strains of anything. I'm not the product guru. I will send you a graphic and I can show you where to get those graphics. But 2 weeks before moving to Mobile, I just called up my friends and family, and that's another. I kind of do a training in my roles like this testimony because I am a huge believer of picking up the phone and calling your friends and family. They should not find out how excited you are about these products in this business. If you have their number in your phone, you're close enough to call them and say, "Hey, Renee, this is Julia. My kids have started taking this probiotic. It's really working. Do you take a probiotic? If you do, I'm going to start selling it. We have a hard time making ends meet. I would love your support. If not, that's fine." I mean, that's literally would be how I would tell them. To my best friends, I said, "Hey, I'm jumping into this business, and if I'm not making $1,000 a month after a year, I'm quitting. You want to come with me?" Y'all, I am not the queen of scripts because I just talk to people. Love them where they're at. Some people jumped in with me. I have a lot of good friends that did, and I have some who still think I'm crazy 8.5 years later. That's okay. We're still friends. So I moved to Mobile, Alabama, and like I said, we had drained our savings and everything. We had $36 to our name and 4 little kids. And I'll never forget, I was standing in Publix, which is the greatest grocery store in the South, if you're not from the South. And I was in Publix parking lot and I got my first paycheck, that ding. And guys, it was to the penny. I needed it to cover that triplex because my kids were taking the probiotic and BioCleanse. I was drinking the pink drink. That's all I was taking. Um, but it was to the penny to cover my first month's products and our first month rent in Mobile, which we had no idea how we were going to pay. And it was right then that I knew that the Lord was going to use this to provide for our family. So, of course, that just fueled excitement. I started calling more friends. I started posting on Facebook, which I said I would never do. And I had that yucky feeling in my gut, but I did it. And people started to ask me questions. And excitement is contagious, and it is. And I was super excited. Honestly, I think it's still why my team is thriving, is because I get really excited still to this day about the business and the products. I started learning. I do know a lot more about gut health now, 8.5 years later. But about 10 months later, I looked at my husband. He had taken a sales job. Again, we were just kind of seasoned, not exactly sure where the Lord was taking us. And I was like, Jared, we are making more money with Plexus than we had ever made in our life. And so I was like, you should quit that job. So he did. And so the next week, he became a stay-at-home dad, and we homeschooled the kids. Little bit, we finally put them in a small private school. Plexus allowed us to do that. I reached the top of the company, got to bring a lot of good friends to the top of the company with me. And then the Lord laid on our heart. We had always had a heart for adoption. And this was back in, he was born in 2018, so 2017. And the Lord's hand was in it every step of the way, because I'll tell you, we started the adoption process. And if you're familiar with private adoption, it takes years. You'll hear years. We started the adoption process in March. We drug our feet because remember, I won a trip to Hawaii in September. We became active the next day we were matched, and we had our fifth baby. Well, he's our second boy, but our fifth child in our arms in November. So that was 7 months. Plexus allowed us to fund our adoption without raising a penny of support. I love supporting adoption. There's nothing wrong with raising support, but what a blessing it was that we did not have that money or the stress of money over our head. It's a fun Plexus story. I had won a $10,000 shopping spree that year. And it was one that they gave us gift cards. You might remember that, Kendall. But we actually got to use our shopping spree that was meant for, I guess, Louis Vuittons and stuff. Actually, we flew all 4 of my kids and my parents out to Utah, where my son was born, and got to spend a month. Well, we got to spend a month in Utah because they lost our paperwork. But we were able to fund that because of our Plexus gift cards to pay for those plane tickets and hotel stays. So that's a fun way that Plexus surprisingly paid for a lot of our adoption, even the extra expenses. So I feel like I'm trying to cast the vision for you that it was so much more than I ever imagined, because I really at the beginning just wanted to pay for Chick-fil-A toddler time and to pay for groceries. And it brought my husband home. When people ask me what Plexus has done for us, it has given us choices. We are able to make choices of what we want to do, and that's what happened 2 years ago. My opportunity came up to move to East Tennessee. My husband was a little tired of staying at home with us, I think, but ministry heart, and so we are actually living on campus at an international boarding school. And where my husband is a director of student life and development, and he does small groups and Bible studies, and we are able to pour in the lives of international kids here. Now, Kendall mentioned a post I made. If you go to my Facebook, you can see Celeste Gwynn. Many of y'all probably know Celeste, who her family, her father started Mission Masai in Kenya, in Mbukani, Kenya. And I've been watching Celeste since I was first started. And I thought it was so neat because we all know, so if you don't know, Celeste is the highest paid Plexus ambassador in the company. And you're kind of I'm still to this, what do you do with all that money? You always think that. And I would always hear, oh, she helps fund Mission Massa. She helps fund this mission in Kenya. I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I would have never thought of anything like that. And we had the opportunity, actually, when we moved to the international school, to connect the Gwens and Mission Masai to our school here. My husband and I got to go to Kenya with them this past summer, which I will say again, we just don't think about that. Where everybody else is like, I can't go, I can't afford 2 plane tickets to Africa. Because of our Plexus income, we're like, oh, okay, we can do that. Just learning to be a good steward with our money, but just giving us that choice and that freedom to be able to make just decisions like that on the whim. But we went, in just this past, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, 2 children from Impukani are now in East Tennessee at our school. And they are getting their education here at the King's Academy. Eunice, the young girl, she's 14. She got to come to my daughter's birthday party this weekend. And just, I sat there, and it's not because of a pink train, but I think about how the Lord's hand, because I said yes to sell this probiotic that my kids needed, I met Celeste, who then introduced us to Mission Masai, who got us to Kenya. And these kids' life have been changed forever. And would the Lord have done it without us? Yeah, he could have, but he chose to work his hand through this. And I also even just thinking about my son, just the legacy that I'm able to leave with him. I 100% believe he is my son. He was meant to be. He is a true Cartee. If you knew the Cartees and you knew Reese, you would know he fits our family, and the Lord knew it before the beginning of time. However, the Lord chose, because of Plexus, to allow us, and he now calls me mommy because I said yes to this opportunity. So that is my kind of my story in a nutshell. I am an action step girl, but before I go into action steps, Kendall, does anybody have anything?
Yeah, you guys always know you're welcome to unmute yourselves. I tell them this every week. Sometimes we afraid souls. But I just wanted to, one thing that stood out to me, and I know you have your action steps, and I'll save my questions for the end, but I loved love people where they're at, because all you have to do is look back on your own journey. And I don't think a single one of us, the very first time that we heard about this, unless Charity's here, because I know that she does, but the very first time we heard about this, did we jump in? No. Were we skeptical? Yes. I know some of us here started and stopped and then started again, right? Like, people quit. And so that's just a big thing, all of us lately. I mean, I know we've had many conversations about it, but loving people where they're at, because you just never know what health has a way of changing, life has a way of changing, and it just may not be the right season, and that's okay. And so this is a relationship business, and just loving on people. And that's kind of the thing I love about it. So I just love that part, and I love your whole story, but I'll let you get to your action steps.
Well, and I'll add, I always ask, I mean, still to this, I think if you love people, you can do well in this business. That's the only prerequisite. Everything else, I mean, systems are important. I'm going to talk about consistency. It is, you have to have it, but you have to love people. And you don't know, I always think of it as like a light bulb. Like, Andrea was sitting there thinking, products. Like, she just kept, and I'll say she tried to stuff them down my throat. Like, let's just be honest. I mean, I've tried to stuff some down to some of my friends' throats too, because I knew it would help them. She had no idea what was going to turn on the light bulb. And it was really finances. Finances was really what was keeping me up at night. She did not realize how, because most of us don't just share with everybody if you're struggling that bad with finances. So you just never know. I think that's why it's important to post and talk about both the business and the products. You can't only talk about the products if you want to build a business, because there's people out there hurting and needing something. And I'm so thankful that she did love me where I was at and continued to talk about the business. I was open to that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I am actually point out really fast, because you had said you've got to love people to have success with this. You don't have to be a people person though. Like, I know my cousin especially, is painfully introverted. Like, she's extremely introverted, yet she's a diamond in the company. And it's not because she doesn't love people, right? Like, you can be introverted and be like, okay, I'm peopled out. Like, I know some people saying you've got to just love people and build relationships. It seems overwhelming, because you've got your small tribe, and that's a lot for you already, right? So I love to point out the difference. Just because you're maybe not a people person doesn't mean you don't know how to love people and have success with this. So just want to put that out there.
And if I can just add something to that, is that okay? And I just want to, I feel be authentically you. And it's hard that, guess what? You're not going to attract everybody. When you show up genuinely as yourself, you're not going to attract everybody. And that's okay, because the people that you do attract are just meant to be in your circle, are the people that you're meant to link arms with. So just be authentically you. Like I said, that just, it's hard to, you look, side to side and like, oh, I just had that she had, if I just had that. And it's like, those are not the gifts that God gave me, and I will attract the people that I'm supposed to attract. So
If I just had Julia's cute little Southern accent,
that's
then
right.
I'd be a diamond, right? Like, we tell ourselves the craziest things.
Well, and it's funny to talk about. You wouldn't think of it because I do have a bubbly Southern accent, but I'm truly an introvert. I get peopled out quickly. So, again, I think is it Renee? Is that how you say it? Rena? Okay, but I think to love people, the best is to be authentically you. Like you can love, because if you're trying to be someone else and you're trying to trust me, I've been there. Like, yes, like. And I think your what was it? That saying that your vibe attracts your tribe. It really is true, and that's something I've learned in just the past year. Honestly, on my team, it's been really sweet. Just the team I've built here in East Tennessee, guys. And I'll say that I moved out here. No one's heard of Plexus. So if you're sitting there thinking the world is saturated, everybody already knows about Plexus, I am here to say, and I'm not blowing smoke. No, they do not. They might right in your little neighborhood, but that's okay because there's a big world out there. And you don't know who that's going to go move to East Tennessee. So just a few, because I'm a teacher at heart. I do have a teaching degree, and I like people to walk away with just a nugget that you're like, okay, Julia, well, what do I do with this? That's a great story. But I am reading a book. I actually have a team call after this. How many of y'all read this, Slight Edge? If you have it, I'll just tell you, it's kind of what I'm reading right now. So it's kind of on top forefront of my mind, but it goes with what I've been taught and really how I've worked my business is consistency. I could give you a billion action steps tonight, but just be consistent with the products. And when I say consistent with the products, I don't take every product. I'm a big believer of being excellent in what you do. You don't have to do everything, just like you don't have to be everything to all people, but what you do, be excellent at. So if it's just the triplex, take that triplex consistently, and then if you want to add some, because I feel like some people, when they jump into the business, they feel like they have to try everything, and that's not necessarily true. But being consistent in daily action steps. And I was telling Kendall, I'm very passionate. I've had, I had the 4 little doorsteps, a homeschooled. Now I'm in kind of a different I have teenagers. I have a 16 and 15-year-old in the living room. I want women to know that they can do this business and be excellent at motherhood and being a wife and being a person outside of Plexus and be excellent in Plexus. Because I think so often we think we have to choose. And I know I'm here to say balance. Some days are hard, depending on what season you are in the business. But really what it takes to grow is just to be consistent. And you have to decide what that is. Do y'all do the winning day? There's the winning day sheets. I know people who love the winning day sheets and they preach. And I love what John Viev shares is like, if you can't do a whole 2 hours, if you can't do a whole hour, well, then do 5 minutes in each section. But really just finding your non-negotiables of, you know what, in this season, right now, today, I had to take someone to ballet, tumble. I had to go to a t-ball game. The tennis match, thankfully, got canceled because of wind. And then there's a baseball game. All 5 of my kids had something. So obviously but guess what I could do? I knew I had this call and I have a book study tonight. And I took a few minutes to reach out to some of my new customers. That's all I'm going to do today. Be excellent in what you have committed to do. So look at your schedule. I'm a huge time blocker. Time blocking helps consistency. You make time for what you want to. Now, there might be a week that you can time block a lot for Plexus. It's just being consistent, showing up on social media, making sure customer care is huge right now. We know retention. I'm just going to trust that y'all have a retention problem too, right? Keeping those customers on Plexus. Yes. You know what helps keep customers on Plexus? It's talking to them. You know, there's a billion scripts out there, and I can share some if for some reason your team doesn't have any, but really it's a relationship. It's talking to them and encouraging them. When people ask me what I do with Plexus, I say I'm a cheerleader and I'm a customer service. And that's what it is. So consistency with the products, consistency with daily action steps, and knowing what those daily action steps are. And then I put on here because I'm looking at is building and maintaining relationships. Because no matter if you are, I was not a blogger. I know maybe there's some on the call that like we're already Insta famous or something, but the majority of us aren't. And so I think just it kind of goes back to that loving people where they're at, not getting into just talking to your little tiny Plexus team, or not tiny, but the few people that come on the Zoom, but talking to people outside of Plexus. Something else, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I probably should not have written them while I was sitting in the car today, but the Boards app. Do y'all use the Boards app? I will never get on another call that I won't sing its praises. It has changed my business in this busy season of motherhood. Because I can just send people stuff. And we're one Plexus. If you want to see what my team board looks like, I can send it to Kindle. Maybe there's something you can grab if you want it. I think that I've had so many one-on-one calls with team members that I'm like, this is saving me, where I used to just go search for things. The board app has really helped me be consistent in reaching out to my customers and even my teammates. So I know none of that is like science, but it's really just what drives me to be able to stay consistent and continue to have a growing, thriving team and 5 teenagers, from teenagers to toddlers in this house, and enjoy it, because I think that's important, that we still enjoy what we do, because it is contagious.
I love it. And yes, we do have boards. So I will, I'll post the link again. We've shared it tons, but I'll post it again on the team page for anyone that doesn't have it. And I love all of this. And that's the thing. You said this isn't rocket science, right? Like all of these tips, but it's because this business isn't rocket science. Like it is simple. It's not easy. We do it all the time. It's not easy, but it's simple. And it's not easy basically in the sense because you have to overcome this. And that is one of the hardest things that we can overcome. Sorry, I just don't know if anybody else got unmuted. I thought I heard pop in for a second there. But like overcoming this, most people won't do. Like, and people who are diamonds or sapphires or emeralds or rubies or whatever rate, like they only get there from overcoming this and not quitting and just being consistent. And there's going to be no guest that comes on any call that's finally got the key to success that they're about to hand you. Like it's truly just those reminders, even 10 years in myself, hearing the reminders of just keep it simple, be consistent, show up regularly, be yourself, love on people. That's it. I love it. I mean, and that's all we need to know in order to be successful with this. So I know you have a call, just real quick. I don't know, is it at 7? Okay. Well, so one quick question I had is just if there is just one thing that you wish you knew day one. I don't know where the sound is coming from. And sometimes mine will echo on other people's computers. But if there's just something you wish you knew coming in that you know now, like if you could go back and tell yourself, Julia, this is that one thing I wish you had known.
Okay, you'll probably not like my answer, but it is, I wish I had had systems. I was all over the place. I mean, I look back, I'm like, how did we ever grow? And I look back at some people that I'm like, oh, if I had just got them plugged in. And I think, and I'm just going to talk to y'all like if I was talking on my Zoom tonight with my team. And listen, my call's not until 9:30 tonight. I'm like, props to y'all being able to do like dinner time and showing up, because my team's not coming till late till we get the kids in bed. But systems, and if you, I don't like the idea of there's a slow season in Plexus, but there's a kind of like you're planting and then you're harvesting. If you're in a place that you're like, people aren't rushing to my team, that's the time to create systems. And you probably don't have to create them because you probably have an upline or you have people in Plexus with them already. That's why I say get boards. Be ready for the rain. So you can take care of them. So yeah, at the beginning, I really I'll just look back and I'm like, I just really didn't know what I was doing, which I don't think any of us knows what we were doing, but I wish I had plugged them in more to a way for them to grow their business easy. And I think that goes back to why I'm very passionate of sharing with moms that they can do this. Because I think a lot of my mommy friends got scared or pushed away because they thought this was very overwhelming. They're like, oh, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to be on a Zoom call every night. You don't have to be on a Zoom call every night. I tell my people, pick one night, pick one event to invite people to and one event for you to come learn. And that is enough. And there's going to be weeks that you miss it, and that's okay. So did that answer your question?
It does. And the big thing is, oh, here, I'm going to mute you because I think that's what keeps doing. Yeah, you got it. It's having systems, which boards, I mean, y'all, if you're not in our boards, we have systems. We have systems in there. But the thing is, it's doing the system. It's following the system. Right. And that word system, I think for so long for me was like a word that was like had a negative connotation, right? Like, oh, if people are in a system, then they're just orders to you. They're just, they're just points in your back office. When that is so far from the truth, like if you don't have a customer service, like if you don't have a system for providing good customer service to your customers, then they are just an order to you because you're not giving them the support that they need to have success with this. Like if you don't have a system for getting ready for bed at night, right? Like you're probably going to forget to brush your teeth or forget to change your underwear or whatever, right? Like systems are important, but it's the matter of doing them. And so like if you have people who are having great results with these products, but you're forgetting to ask them to share that, like that is such an important part of this because like I have a sweet friend who just made her first post and she's like, I didn't even think of doing that. I'm like, yes, let's do it. People just don't think of these things. And so I agree, systems and organization. If you can get yourself organized instead of just trusting on the messenger scroll to remember who you were talking to, like that makes a huge difference. It goes such a long way. So no, I think that's a really, really great tip. If any of y'all have a question for Julia, you guys are more than welcome to ask. And I already have some saying, yes, please, we'd love to see her boards. So yes, if you're open to sharing, that would be fantastic. Okay, so I don't know if anyone's going to unmute. Y'all can also ask me later and I can pick her brain or shoot her a message and then you'll get more of her little country accent when she responds. I love it. Well, thank you, friends, so much for hopping on here tonight. We really, really appreciate you. It's just so good to get a little insight into your journey. And because I followed you as long as you've been doing it. I started this a little bit before you. And I'm on Heather's team, Heather Burke, she's my cousin. So, the whole Celeste and Jen line. Yeah.
I never know where everybody falls, but yes. Well, thank y'all so much. Again, I can't actually, there are two. I'm really not a book person. I do love to read. I am not typically the person. Self-development is something I had to embrace too, because I just like, who has time to read books? But this, if you have not read Build to Last, if you're serious about the business, have you read it, Kendall?
I just ordered it actually last week. I saw someone recommend it.
Well, we did it as a team, like my leaders, my people building. This is so very good. And then this is what we're doing. This, and there's a quote that you were talking. I was like, oh, I need to say that. He talks about it in here. And it makes me think of Plexus every time. Plexus is easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. Like good habits are, like it's easy to make a post, but it's really easy to go to bed without making a post. Customer service is easy. A system is honestly easy, but it's really easy not to do it too. And that's very convicting to me because I think sometimes I forget. I'm like, oh, yes. But like I'm making my husband read this next because this is for anybody. So if you're just here and you're like, oh, I like the business, but this is like, I just feel like, and Sarah Marble had told me it changed her life, like just diet, health, and it actually makes me get up and work out every morning. So you just need this book too. Fight Edge, Built to Last. Those are my recommendations to end the call. So
I love it. Maybe it was you that posted about it. I don't know, but I just saw somebody post about that book last week. And so I was like, I have to get it. So
it's really,
thank you, friend. I'm going to stop our stream. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, guys, thank you everyone for hopping on here. We will see y'all later.